The text from my sister Jennifer came at 6:47 a.m. Christmas morning. Maya, what time should we arrive? Mom wants to know if you need help with anything. I stared at my phone from my first-class seat on Flight 842 to Honolulu, watching the California coastline disappear below. Help with anything, that was rich. In 15 years they'd never once offered actual help. It started when I was 22, fresh out of college and living in my first apartment. Mom had called 3 weeks before Christmas 2008, her voice strained with that familiar guilt trip tone I'd learned to recognize. Maya, honey, I just don't have the energy to do Christmas dinner this year. Your father's back surgery, and Jennifer's so busy with her new job. Could you maybe host something small? Just immediate family. Small, turned into 17 people. Just immediate family, included cousins I barely knew and their children. That first Christmas I spent my entire savings on groceries, cooked for 3 days straight, and cleaned my apartment until my hands were raw. Jennifer arrived 2 hours late with store-bought cookies, took selfies with the centerpieces I'd made, and posted them with captions about our family traditions. But the real kicker came during dinner. Uncle Robert raised his glass and toasted Jennifer's amazing hosting skills. When I gently corrected him, Mom shushed me. Don't be petty, Maya. It's Christmas. I should have stopped there. Should have recognized the pattern forming. Instead, I smiled, cleaned up alone while everyone watched football, and somehow found myself agreeing to host New Year's too. 15 years. That's how long it took me to realize I'd become the family's unpaid event coordinator, caterer, decorator, and cleanup crew all rolled into one. Every holiday, every birthday, every anniversary, every graduation party, if it involved more than 3 people, it was automatically assigned to me. Not asked. The system was insidious in its efficiency. Mom would call first, usually around 3 weeks before any event. The conversation always followed the same script. Maya, we need to talk about, insert holiday/celebration here. What about it, Mom? Well, your sister's house is too small and your brother's place is under construction, and Dad and I just don't have the energy anymore. The implication hung there, unspoken but crystal clear. I was the only option. The family savior. The one who didn't have anything better to do anyway. The worst part wasn't even the money, though I calculated once that I'd spent over $40,000 of my own salary on family events over the years. It wasn't the time, though. I'd used every vacation day from my marketing job to shop, prepare, cook, and host. It wasn't even the physical exhaustion, though I'd developed chronic back pain from lifting tables and carrying platters. The worst part was how they'd rewritten history to erase me from it. Jennifer's Instagram was a masterpiece of revisionist documentation. Every family gathering appeared on her feed as Our Beautiful Family Traditions, with carefully cropped photos that made it look like she'd orchestrated everything. She'd post pictures of the dining room table I'd spent hours setting, the flower arrangements I'd made by hand, the elaborate dessert spreads I'd baked from scratch. The captions always referenced we and our family, and so grateful for these moments we create together. The comments poured in, you're so talented. What a perfect hostess. Your family is so lucky to have you. Jennifer would heart every single one. Meanwhile, I was in the kitchen washing dishes and wrapping leftovers, invisible as always. My brother Marcus wasn't much better. He'd arrive exactly when dinner was served, eat until he couldn't move, and then disappear to watch sports while I cleaned. His wife Sarah would make a show of offering to help, but somehow always got distracted by one of their kids needing attention. Maya's got this, she'd say with a laugh. She's so organized. Organized. That became my label. Maya's so organized, so capable, so good at this stuff. Never mind that I taught myself event planning through YouTube videos and Pinterest boards. Never mind that I stayed up until 2 a.m. for weeks before every event, stressed to the point of insomnia. Never mind that I'd never had anyone plan so much as a birthday dinner for me. The breaking point should have been Mom's 65th birthday party last spring. She'd requested something simple for maybe 20 people. It turned into a themed celebration for 47 guests, with a custom cake, professional decorations, and a slideshow presentation I'd spent 2 weeks creating. I rented tables, hired a photographer, even arranged for a surprise appearance by her college roommate I'd tracked down through Facebook. The party was perfect. Mom cried happy tears. The photos were magazine-worthy. The entire family told me it was the best party ever. 3 days later, Mom called with criticism. The flowers were a little overdone. The music was too loud. The photographer I'd hired was kind of pushy. She ended the call with, "Next time maybe we should just keep it simple." Next time. There was always going to be a next time. That's when I started seeing Dr. Martinez. I'd been putting off therapy for years, telling myself I was fine, just stressed, just busy. But something about Mom's critique of the party I'd nearly killed myself planning broke something inside me. I called the employee assistance program at work and scheduled an appointment. Dr. Martinez was a soft-spoken woman in her 50s who specialized in family dynamics. During our first session, I spent 30 minutes explaining that I wasn't sure why I was there, that my family relationships were mostly good, that I just felt overwhelmed sometimes. She listened without judgment, taking notes in a leather-bound notebook. When I finished my rambling explanation, she asked one simple question. "When was the last time someone in your family did something special for you?" I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. Not couldn't remember, couldn't think of a single example. My last birthday had been acknowledged with text messages. My promotion at work had earned a "that's nice" from Mom and radio silence from my siblings. When I'd had the flu last winter and missed Christmas shopping, Jennifer had called to ask if I could at least order gifts online for the kids since she didn't know what they wanted. "I see," Dr. Martinez said gently. "Let's talk about that." Over the next 6 months, our sessions became a slow, painful excavation of 15 years of family dynamics I'd convinced myself were normal. Dr. Martinez helped me identify the patterns. The way my family weaponized guilt, how they'd cast me in the role of family servant and then gaslit me into believing it was natural, how they exploited my people-pleasing tendencies while giving nothing in return. The term she used was parentification. How I'd been assigned the emotional and logistical responsibilities of caring for the entire extended family, without any of the authority or appreciation that should come with that role. "It's not uncommon," she explained during one session. "Families often designate one person as the responsible one, and then systematically exploit that person's willingness to sacrifice for the group. The problem is, it becomes so normalized that both the family and the designated person lose sight of how unhealthy the dynamic really is." "But they need me," I protested. "If I don't plan these things, who will?" Dr. Martinez leaned forward slightly. "Maya, has anyone ever asked you what you need?" The question hit like a physical blow. I sat in her office, surrounded by soft lighting and tissues and the faint smell of lavender, and realized that no one in my family had ever once asked me what I needed. What I wanted. What would make me happy. I started planning my escape in September. It wasn't dramatic or emotional. It was methodical, like everything else I'd learned to do well. I opened a savings account at a different bank. I researched flights to Hawaii and found a perfect Christmas week package at a resort in Maui. I submitted my vacation request at work for December 20th through January 3rd. The hardest part was maintaining normal behavior during the October and November family events. I planned Marcus's wife's baby shower in October, pink and gold theme, 30 guests, custom favors she posted all over social media. I organized the family's Thanksgiving gathering in November, 21 people, traditional menu plus accommodations for 3 different dietary restrictions, handmade centerpieces featuring miniature pumpkins I'd carved myself. Both events went perfectly. Both times I smiled and accepted compliments and began mentally packing my suitcase for Hawaii. The December family meeting happened right on schedule. Mom called on December 3rd. "Maya, honey, we need to talk about Christmas." I let her go through the whole familiar script. Jennifer's house was too small. Marcus's place was still dealing with that kitchen renovation. Dad's arthritis was acting up. They were all just so tired from the busy year. "So we were thinking," Mom continued, "maybe you could host Christmas Eve and Christmas Day this year? Jennifer wants to do something special with the kids Christmas morning, so maybe brunch? And then the whole family could come for dinner." 2 days. She wanted me to host Christmas for 2 consecutive days. "Of course, Mom," I said. "I'll take care of everything." I could hear the relief in her voice. "Oh Maya, you're a lifesaver. What would we do without you?" I was about to find out. The group text went out on December 15th. Christmas schedule. Christmas Eve brunch at Maya's 11 a.m. Christmas Day dinner at Maya's 4 p.m. Can't wait to see everyone. XOXO. I got back 17 responses, All variations of "sounds great," and "thanks Maya," and "see you there." No one asked what I needed them to bring. No one offered to help with shopping or cooking or setup. No one even asked if the timing worked for me. That night I bought my plane ticket. The morning of December 23rd, I drove to 3 different grocery stores and filled 2 shopping carts with food I'd never eat. I wanted their disappointment to be complete and obvious. Organic turkey from Whole Foods. Imported cheese. Expensive wine. Premium ingredients for dishes I'd perfected over 15 years of practice. I left everything in my refrigerator and pantry. My flight to Maui departed at 5:30 a.m. on December 24th. I'd set my alarm for 3 a.m. but I'd barely slept anyway. Instead, I'd lain in bed, alternating between excitement and terror. Part of me kept reaching for my phone to cancel the whole thing, to text my family with some emergency excuse, to fall back into the familiar pattern of sacrifice and resentment. But Dr. Martinez's voice kept echoing in my head from our last session. Maya, you've spent 15 years managing their feelings and expectations. What would happen if, just once, they had to manage yours? I turned off my phone at 4 a.m. and kept it off until I landed in Hawaii. The Maui resort was everything I'd dreamed of and nothing I'd experienced during 15 years of family holidays. My ocean view room had a private balcony where I ate breakfast alone, watching sea turtles surface in the turquoise water. I spent Christmas Eve getting a massage and reading a novel by the pool. No shopping lists, no cooking schedules, no family politics to navigate. Christmas Day itself was surreal in its simplicity. I ordered room service, fresh fruit, macadamia nut pancakes, Hawaiian coffee, and ate breakfast in bed while watching the sunrise. I went snorkeling. I took a nap. I had dinner at the resort restaurant, where the waiter asked about my holiday plans and I said simply, "This is it." "Traveling solo for Christmas?" he asked. "That's brave." Brave. No one in my family had ever called me brave for anything. I turned my phone back on that evening Hawaii time. It was already December 26th back home. I had 47 missed calls, 63 text messages and 12 voicemails. I made myself a tropical drink from the minibar and settled in to read through the chaos I'd created. The early messages, time-stamped around 11 a.m. Pacific on Christmas Eve, started with confusion. "Mom, Paya, where are you? We're at your apartment. Jennifer, your landlord let us in the building but you're not answering your door. Marcus, did you go to get last-minute stuff? We're all here." The tone shifted around noon. "Dad, Paya, this isn't funny. People are hungry." "Jennifer, there's no food here. What's going on?" "Uncle Robert, kids are crying. Need to find a restaurant open." By evening, confusion had turned to panic. "Mom, Paya, Elizabeth, you call me right now. The whole family is here and there's nothing prepared." "Nothing." "Jennifer, I can't believe you would do this to us. To the kids." "Marcus, Mom is having a panic attack. Where the hell are you?" "Jennifer again, Grandma drove 3 hours for this. She's 89 years old." The Christmas Day messages were even more desperate. "Mom, Maya, I don't know what's wrong but we can fix this. Just call me." "Jennifer, the entire family is talking about this. You've embarrassed all of us." "Marcus, Sarah's parents were supposed to come to dinner. What am I supposed to tell them?" And finally, around 8 p.m. Pacific on Christmas Day. "Mom, your behavior is selfish and cruel. I don't know who you've become but this isn't the Maya I raised. You've ruined Christmas for everyone." I read every message twice, waiting for the guilt to hit. Waiting for the crushing anxiety that had driven me to therapy in the first place. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 15 years. Peace. They'd figured it out. Without me, they'd scrambled and managed and found restaurants and made alternative plans. The children had still gotten their Christmas. The family had still gathered. The world had not ended because I wasn't there to orchestrate their happiness. I spent the next 3 days in Hawaii doing exactly what I wanted. I took a helicopter tour of the island. I learned to surf. I read 3 entire books without interruption. I bought myself souvenirs, the first vacation gifts I'd purchased for myself in years. On December 27th, I called Dr. Martinez's emergency line. She called me back within an hour. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Free," I said. "Terrified but free." She was quiet for a moment. "That sounds exactly right. I flew back to Los Angeles on December 29th, tanned and rested and dreading the confrontation I knew was waiting. But when I walked into my apartment, I found something unexpected. 3 voicemails from family members who hadn't spoken to me in years. My cousin David, who'd been at every Christmas I'd hosted but never once helped. Maya, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I never realized how much work you did for all of us. Mom told me what happened and honestly I don't blame you. My Aunt Susan, Mom's sister. Honey, I heard about Christmas. Your mom is upset, but between you and me she had it coming. She's been taking advantage of you for years. Good for you for finally standing up for yourself. My grandmother, Dad's mother. Maya, dear, I want you to know that Christmas was lovely even though it was different. Your cousin Jennifer managed just fine. She should have been helping you all along. I hope you had a wonderful vacation. The family fallout was swift and predictable. Jennifer started a group chat without me to discuss Maya's behavior. Marcus called me selfish and dramatic. Mom alternated between guilt trips and silent treatment. But something had shifted in the family dynamic. Without me to automatically assign responsibilities to, they had to actually negotiate among themselves. Jennifer discovered that event planning was harder than it looked. Marcus learned that someone had to coordinate schedules and manage RSVPs. Mom realized that hosting duties couldn't just be dumped on whoever seemed most willing. More importantly, I learned that I could survive their disapproval. My siblings eventually started speaking to me again, mostly because they needed my help with something. But the dynamic had changed. When Jennifer called about planning Mom's birthday party, I said, I'm not available that weekend, but I'm happy to contribute $50 toward hiring a caterer. $50? She sputtered. Maya, you know I can't plan a whole party by myself. Actually, I know you can, I said. You managed Christmas just fine. When Marcus asked if I could host Easter, I suggested we rotate hosting duties among all the adult children. I'll take Easter next year, I offered. This year I'm visiting a friend in Portland. The friend in Portland was Dr. Martinez's suggestion. A college roommate I'd lost touch with years ago because I'd been too busy managing my family's social calendar. Reconnecting with her led to other reconnections, other friendships I'd neglected in service of family obligations. By the following Christmas, the family had adapted. Jennifer hosted Christmas Eve at her house, with everyone bringing assigned dishes. Marcus took Christmas Day with catered food split among the siblings. I brought dessert and went home after dinner to watch movies with friends. It wasn't the picture-perfect family Christmas I'd spent 15 years orchestrating. But it was sustainable, equitable, and for the first time in years actually enjoyable. The real revelation came during New Year's Eve. I was at a party with my friend Rebecca, the one I'd reconnected with in Portland. At midnight, surrounded by people who knew me as something other than the family workhorse, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd celebrated New Year's Eve anywhere except in my kitchen, cleaning up after a family party I'd planned and hosted and orchestrated from start to finish. What are you thinking about? Rebecca asked, noticing my contemplative mood. I spent 15 years trying to make my family happy, I told her. And I never once asked if it was making me happy. She clinked her champagne glass against mine. Well, better late than never. Looking back now, I understand that my Christmas morning flight to Hawaii wasn't really about revenge or dramatic gestures. It was about boundary setting, teaching my family that I was a person with my own needs and desires, not just a resource they could exploit indefinitely. Dr. Martinez calls it differentiation. The process of becoming an individual within your family system instead of just playing the role they've assigned you. It's uncomfortable and guilt-inducing and sometimes lonely. But it's also the only way to build relationships based on mutual respect instead of exploitation. My family still calls me when they need something, but now they ask instead of assuming. They offer to help instead of expecting me to handle everything alone. They acknowledge my contributions instead of taking them for granted. And when they don't, when someone slips back into the old patterns of expectation and entitlement, I have a tropical drink by a pool in Maui to remind me that I have choices, that I can say no, that their discomfort with my boundaries is not my emergency to solve. The best part is that they've all become more capable. Jennifer has discovered she's actually quite creative when she has to be. Marcus has learned to coordinate family schedules. Mom has started asking what would work best for everyone instead of just assigning tasks to whoever seems most available. They didn't need me to handle everything for them. They needed me to stop handling everything for them so they could learn to handle things themselves. Sometimes I think about that morning in the airplane, watching California disappear below me while my family gathered around an empty table. I'd spent so many years afraid of disappointing them, afraid of letting them down, afraid of what would happen if I wasn't there to manage their expectations. It turns out what happened was simple. They figured it out. They adapted. They grew up. And so did I.
You need to leave. Your kids are too noisy and messy. Patricia slammed her fork down, glaring at me across the dinner table. My name is Olivia, and at 34, I was being told by my mother-in-law to move out of a house she thought was hers. What she didn't know was that before he passed away, her husband George had secretly left the house to me, knowing exactly how she would act once he was gone. The kids were just playing outside, Patricia, I said, wiping my daughter's chin. They're 6. That's what kids do. Patricia scowled. This is my house, and I won't have it turned into a playground. James and I raised Michael without this kind of chaos. She gestured at the children's artwork on the fridge like it was an eyesore. Across the table, my brother-in-law James nodded in agreement while his wife, Sophie, smirked. They had moved in months ago after James lost his job, but somehow, their presence never seemed to bother Patricia. You have until tomorrow to leave, Patricia continued. I talked to Michael, and he agrees. My heart sank. My husband, Michael, was deployed overseas, but we had already discussed Patricia's behavior. He told me to stand my ground when the time was right. I remembered George calling me into his study 2 years ago. His voice was weak, but determined. Olivia, listen to me. Patricia will try to take the house from you. She's always resented how much Michael loves you, but I've made sure she can't. The house is yours. He handed me an envelope with all the legal documents proving I was the owner. You'll know when to use these. Now, as Patricia planned how she would redecorate her house, I knew that moment had arrived. You can't just throw them out, Mom. Michael's sister, Lisa, said from the doorway. She usually stayed out of family fights, so her support surprised me. Patricia waved a hand dismissively. Olivia has money from her parents. She can find an apartment. I held my children close and whispered, It's okay. We're not going anywhere. Patricia's face darkened. Did you not hear me? I want you gone by tomorrow. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. Patricia flinched at the noise. Actually, Patricia, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about, she snapped. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope George had given me. My hands trembled slightly, but I stayed firm. George left something for you, I said. I think it's time you knew the truth. Patricia's face twisted in confusion. Behind her, James and Sophie exchanged worried glances. They had been counting on staying here rent-free. What are you talking about? Patricia demanded. George left everything to me. I placed the envelope on the table. Not everything. Not the house. Patricia's hands shook as she opened the documents. Her face turned pale as she read. This can't be real. But it was. Every word, every signature, every legal stamp. The house was never hers. She had just tried to evict the wrong person. Patricia's hands shook as she flipped through the trust documents. Her face grew paler with each page. The dining room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and my children's soft whispers. This is fake, she finally said, but her voice was weak. George would never do this to me. He would never give our home to. She waved a hand at me, unable to say my name. To his grandchildren's mother. I finished for her. To the woman who took care of him while you were busy with your social clubs. Is that so hard to believe, Patricia? James leaned forward, frowning. Mom, what do those papers say? I spoke before she could. They say that George left this house to me and the twins. He knew what would happen once he was gone, so he made sure we were protected. But that's not fair, Sophie blurted out, losing her usual calm. We were planning to renovate the East Wing for our home office. I turned to her. You mean my East Wing? The one you've been living in rent-free for 3 months. Patricia slammed the papers on the table. I won't accept this. I'll call my lawyer tonight. Go ahead, I said, taking out my phone. Want Mr. Harrison's number? He handled all the paperwork for George. Patricia froze. She knew George's lawyer well. If he handled the trust, it was solid. Lisa, who had stayed quiet, finally spoke. Mom, if George did this, maybe he had a reason. Patricia's voice rose. What reason could he have for giving my house to her? I reached into the envelope and pulled out a letter written in George's handwriting. Maybe you should read his explanation yourself. Patricia snatched the letter and read quickly. I already knew every word. My dearest Patricia, if you're reading this, it means Olivia has had to show you the truth. I know you're angry, but please understand. I did this to protect our grandchildren and the woman who brought happiness back into Michael's life. I watched you try to control everything and everyone, including me. But Olivia is different. She loves Michael for who he is, not who she wants him to be. She gave us 2 wonderful grandchildren who deserve to grow up in a home filled with love, not strict rules and criticism. The house belongs to her now. This is my final decision and my last gift to our family's future. All my love, George. Tears rolled down Patricia's cheeks. For the first time, she looked truly lost. Daddy? Emily tugged at my sleeve. Are we really staying? I knelt beside my children and hugged them. Yes, sweetheart, this is our home. Grandpa George made sure of that. But where will we go? James demanded, his face red. Sophie and I can't afford our own place. I stood up. You're welcome to stay if you start paying rent. Market rate with a lease. The same goes for you, Patricia. This is still your family home, but under my terms now. Patricia looked up, her makeup streaked with tears. You expect me to pay rent? In my house? Not your house, I corrected. And yes, I do. George left instructions for how the house should be managed. I'm just following his wishes. The room went silent. James and Sophie whispered to each other. Lisa gave me a look of reluctant respect. Patricia just sat there, holding George's letter. After a long pause, she finally spoke. He really planned all this. He did, I said. He wanted to make sure the twins always had a home, and that I had the power to protect them, even from family if necessary. Alex's foot accidentally kicked the table leg, making a loud noise. Normally, Patricia would scold him. But this time, she just stared at the twins like she was really seeing them for the first time. I need time, she finally said, smoothing her napkin. To think. I nodded, putting the documents away. Take all the time you need, but understand this, we're not leaving. And things are going to change around here. As I took my kids upstairs, I heard Patricia quietly crying at the table. A part of me felt sorry for her. Losing control was her worst fear, but another part of me felt relieved. George had given us more than just a house. He had given us the power to stand our ground. Now, Patricia had to decide if she could accept the new reality or keep fighting a battle she had already lost. The weeks following the revelation brought dramatic changes to our household. Patricia had retreated to her sister's house to process, while James and Sophie scrambled to find alternative housing once they realized I was serious about charging market rate rent. My phone buzzed one morning as I was helping the twins with breakfast. It was a text from Michael. Mom called me crying, said you stole her house. Want to tell me what's going on? I sent him photos of the trust documents and George's letter. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Dad was always smarter than anyone gave him credit for, Michael said, his voice warm despite the static of the overseas connection. He knew exactly what Mom would try to do. Are you okay? We're fine, I assured him, watching Emily help Alex pour cereal. Better than fine, actually. The kids can finally relax in their own home. Good, Michael replied. I've got your back on this, Liv. Always have, always will. 2 days later, Patricia returned. She stood on the front porch, looking smaller somehow, more vulnerable without her usual armor of superiority. May I come in? She asked quietly. To talk? We sat in the kitchen, the same room where she critiqued my parenting countless times. But now she perched uncertainly on the edge of her chair, hands wrapped around the tea I'd offered. I've been reading George's letter over and over, she began. He was right about me, about everything. She took a shaky breath. I was so focused on maintaining control that I never saw what I was doing to this family, to my grandchildren. As if on cue, we heard laughter from the backyard. The twins were playing in the sprinkler, something Patricia would have forbidden just weeks ago. They're good kids, Patricia, I said softly. They just need space to be themselves. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. George knew that. He saw what I couldn't, or wouldn't see. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I had my lawyer review everything. The trust is ironclad. The house is legally yours. It's still your home too, I reminded her. If you want it to be, but things have to change. I know, she whispered. I'd like to try to do better, to be the grandmother they deserve. Over the next few months, we all watched in amazement as Patricia slowly transformed. She started joining the twins for arts and crafts, actually participating instead of just criticizing the mess. She learned to laugh when Alex accidentally spilled his juice instead of reaching for her cleaning supplies in panic. James and Sophie eventually found their own apartment, realizing that depending on Patricia's favor had held them back from growing up. Lisa started visiting more often, remarking on how much warmer the house felt. One evening, I found Patricia in George's study, looking at old family photos. I found these in his desk, she said, showing me a stack of pictures. They were all candid shots of the twins, Emily's first steps, Alex's birthday party, both of them playing in the garden. He kept every single one. He loved them exactly as they were. I said gently, no conditions, no expectations. Patricia wiped her eyes. I'm learning to do the same. It's not easy, changing the habits of a lifetime, but she looked out the window where the twins were chasing fireflies in the twilight. It's worth it. When Michael finally returned from deployment, he was amazed by the changes in his childhood home. Gone were the plastic covers on the furniture and the strict rules about which rooms were off limits. Instead, he found his mother teaching the twins how to bake cookies in the kitchen, flour dusting all their faces. Dad would love this, he whispered to me as we watched them together. This is exactly what he wanted. He was right. George's final gift hadn't just been the house. It had been the opportunity for his family to heal, to grow, to learn to love without conditions or controls. 1 year to the day after I revealed the trust documents, we hosted a family dinner. Patricia had helped the twins decorate the dining room with their artwork, proudly displaying their creativity instead of hiding it away. As we sat around the table, Patricia raised her glass. To George, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Who knew exactly what this family needed, even when we didn't know ourselves? I watched my children beam at their grandmother, saw the genuine warmth in her smile as she looked back at them, and knew that George had been right all along. Sometimes love means making hard choices, setting firm boundaries, and forcing people to face uncomfortable truths. But if you're lucky, those tough choices lead to something beautiful. Like watching a controlling mother-in-law learn to embrace chaos, or seeing your children finally feel completely at home in their own house. As Emily and Alex raced off to play after dinner, their laughter echoing through the halls, Patricia turned to me with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said simply, for not giving up on me. I squeezed her hand gently. That's what family does, I replied. We give each other second chances. And in that moment, I knew George was somewhere smiling, knowing his final act of love had transformed not just a house, but all of our hearts. This morning, I found another strange bundle under my pillow. It was wrapped in red cloth and filled with dried herbs, bones, and dark powder. But instead of being scared, I just smiled. My mother-in-law was getting predictable. Another curse, Maya, my husband, Alex, sighed from the doorway. Mom says she saw dark spirits following you last night. Oh really? I held up the bundle. Is that why she left us this lovely gift? Alex ran a hand through his hair, something he always did when frustrated. You know how she is. Maybe if you just... Tried what? I interrupted. Let her burn sage in our house again. Wear the charms she keeps sneaking onto me. Accept that she thinks I'm the reason for all your family's bad luck. My mother-in-law, Mira, believed in spirits, curses, and bad omens, and for the past 3 years, she had decided that I was the cause of all her family's problems. It started at our wedding when Alex's dad had a small heart attack. Nothing serious, just too much food and dancing. But Mira took it as a bad sign. Then, when Alex lost a big job opportunity, she blamed my dark energy. The worst was when Alex's younger brother, Tommy, had a car accident last year. He was fine, but Mira was sure I had cursed him. I found her in our bedroom yesterday, I told Alex, picking up the bundle with a tissue. She was cleansing our space. Did you give her another key? Alex looked guilty. She just wants to protect me. Family means everything to her. Family. That word was Mira's favorite weapon. She always made sure I felt like the outsider. She never wanted me to marry Alex in the first place. What about the black salt around our bed? The strange symbols behind our photos? The dead chicken in our garden last week? Were those all protection too? She's just worried, Alex mumbled. Ever since Tommy's accident. Your brother fell asleep at the wheel after playing video games all night, I said firmly. That's not magic. That's exhaustion. But I knew facts wouldn't change Mira's mind. She had spent the past year spreading rumors, warning Alex about me, and planting cursed objects in our home. What she didn't know was that I had been paying attention. I had been studying her rituals, her beliefs, and her superstitions. Every charm she left, every spell she performed, I wrote them all down. I have to go, Alex said, checking his watch. Mom invited us for dinner. She says she had a vision about your aura. I nodded, already making a plan. Of course she did. Tell her I'll be there. After Alex left, I carefully placed the black bundle in a special box in my office. Inside were all of Mira's past gifts, cursed coins, graveyard dirt, even a lock of hair she claimed belonged to a witch. I had photographed, dated, and logged every single one. The full moon was in 3 days. Mira always said that the full moon reveals the truth. This time she was right. I picked up my phone and called my friend Sophia, a cultural anthropologist who specialized in folk magic. Another gift from your monster-in-law, she asked. Black bundle under my pillow, I said. She's getting bolder. Time to move forward with the plan. Sophia laughed. Everything's ready. She won't know what hit her. I glanced at my calendar, where the full moon was marked. Mira thought she was the only one who understood the power of rituals. She was about to learn otherwise. Perfect, I said, closing my journal. Let's see how she likes a taste of her own magic. Tonight's dinner would be interesting. Mira would probably serve her clarity tea, hoping Alex would see my true nature. But she had no idea I had a surprise of my own. Mira's house always smelled like strong incense and herbs, the kind that made your throat scratch. Tonight, the scent was even stronger. As we stepped inside for dinner, I noticed red candles flickering everywhere and new protective symbols above the doors. My son. Mira rushed to hug Alex, making sure to stand between us. I've been so worried. The spirits were restless last night. I raised an eyebrow at Alex, but he just looked away, caught between his mother's beliefs and my disbelief. Come, Mira said, leading us to the dining room. I've made a special meal to remove bad energy. The table was covered with her usual rituals, salt circles around each plate, black candles at the corners, and her infamous tea set ready on the side. I already knew how this night would go. Alex's younger brother, Tommy, was already seated, looking uncomfortable. He had tried to tell their mother that his accident wasn't my fault, but she had convinced him he was under my influence and couldn't trust himself. Maya, Mira said my name like it was poison. I had a vision about you last night. Really? I took my seat, purposely messing up the salt circle around my plate. I saw her eyes narrow. What kind of vision? I saw darkness around you, spreading to my family. She poured the tea, making sure my cup came from a separate pot. But don't worry, I've invited someone who can help. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. Mira hurried to answer it, returning with an older woman dressed in layers of shawls and more crystals than a jewelry store. This is Madame Verna, Mira announced proudly. She's a real seer. She will reveal the truth. I took a sip of tea to hide my smile. Everything was going according to plan. The spirits are active tonight, Madame Verna said as she took a seat. The full moon approaches. Secrets will come to light. Under the table, I sent a quick text to my friend Sophia. Showtime. Madame Verna will perform a revelation ceremony, Mira said excitedly. She will help us understand what's really been happening. Madame Verna arranged crystals and herbs on the table, pushing aside our dinner plates. I watched closely. She was performing exactly the ritual I had studied. Hold hands, she commanded. We must create a circle of truth. As we linked hands, the dining room lights flickered. Mira gasped. Right on time, Sophia. The spirits are restless, Madame Verna said. They have much to reveal. Suddenly, the room grew colder. Another trick Sophia and I had planned using the smart thermostat I had helped Mira install last month. Someone here has been working with dark forces, Madame Verna continued. Someone has been placing cursed objects. Yes, Mira interrupted. In my son's house. I keep finding them. No, Madame Verna's eyes snapped open, staring straight at Mira. The spirits show me someone planting these objects. someone who pretends to protect but actually wants to harm. Mira's face turned pale. What? No, that's wrong. My phone buzzed. I pulled up my photo gallery, pictures I had secretly taken over the past year. Images of Mira sneaking into our house, planting cursed objects, performing rituals to frame me. The security cameras I had installed had captured everything. The spirits don't lie, I said, turning my phone so everyone could see. Every full moon, Mira. That's when you came to plant your evidence, wasn't it? I was protecting my family, Mira stammered. By faking curses? Madame Verna's voice was sharp. By trying to break apart your son's marriage? The spirits are not pleased with deception. Alex stared at the photos, his face filled with shock and realization. Mom, you've been sneaking into our house to do this? Tommy leaned in to look. Is that why you insisted on having a key? To set up these curses yourself? The lights flickered again, this time stronger. A sudden gust of wind, courtesy of the smart home system, blew through the room, snuffing out the candles. The spirits demand truth, Madame Verna declared, and they will accept nothing less. In the darkened room, Mira's face was illuminated only by the glow of my phone screen, still displaying the damning evidence of her deception. The security footage played silently, Mira sneaking into our house at midnight, planting her cursed objects, performing her rituals, all carefully staged to frame me. The spirits are not pleased with those who use sacred beliefs for manipulation, Madame Verna continued, her voice stern. They demand restitution. What Mira didn't know was that Madame Verna was actually Professor Veronica Martinez, a colleague of Sophia's who specialized in studying how supernatural beliefs were sometimes used to control family dynamics. She'd been more than happy to help expose Mira's manipulation. I did it for the family, Mira insisted, but her voice wavered. She brought bad luck from the moment she joined us. Dad's heart attack was from his undiagnosed high blood pressure. Tommy spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. My accident was my own fault for driving tired. And Alex's lost project. His competitor had better connections. None of that had anything to do with Maya. Alex stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. All this time, Mom. You've been trying to destroy my marriage, break up my family, and for what? Because you couldn't control everything anymore. The smart home system Sophia was controlling created another cold breeze, making the curtains flutter ominously. The spirits show me more, Madame Verna announced. They show me a mother's fear, not of dark forces, but of losing her grip on her son. They show me a woman who would rather create chaos than accept change. Mira burst into tears, but for once, Alex didn't rush to comfort her. Instead, he walked over to stand beside me. I've been blind, he said, taking my hand. Maya never tried to come between us. Mom, you did that yourself with all your accusations and schemes. I squeezed his hand, feeling the tension of the past 3 years finally starting to release. I never wanted to prove you wrong, Mira. I just wanted you to accept me as part of the family. But the curses, Mira protested weakly, were all planted by you, I said gently. Every full moon, like clockwork. The security cameras caught everything. The only dark energy in this family was the doubt and fear you created. Tommy stood up too. This has to stop, Mom. Maya's family now, whether you like it or not. The lights gradually came back on, Sophia's final cue. Madame Verna began gathering her crystals. The spirits have spoken, she declared. They say this family can heal, but only if truth replaces deception and acceptance replaces fear. Mira sat in her chair, looking smaller somehow. All her carefully constructed schemes had crumbled, exposed not by dark magic, but by simple technology and her own predictable patterns. I'm keeping the security cameras, I said quietly, and Alex and I will be changing our locks. But Mira, if you're willing to start fresh. No more curses, no more accusations, I am too. Alex wrapped his arm around my shoulders. That's more than generous, considering everything she's done. Mira looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. You forgive me. Just like that? Not just like that, I corrected. You'll need to earn back our trust. But family is family, right? Isn't that what you always say? 3 months later, things had changed dramatically. Mira started seeing a therapist to work on her control issues. The black bundles and cursed objects stopped appearing in our house. She even enrolled in a meditation class to help manage her anxiety about losing her sons. Last week, she invited me to help cook for the family dinner. No specialty, no salt circles, just regular food and conversation. As we chopped vegetables side by side, she finally asked the question I've been waiting for. How did you know? About the full moon timing, about everything. I smiled. You taught me well, Mira. I learned to pay attention to patterns to look for signs. I just used that knowledge differently than you expected. She nodded, actually looking impressed. Maybe you do belong in this family after all. Coming from Mira, it was practically a declaration of love. I accepted it as the peace offering it was. Later that night, as Alex and I got ready for bed, he noticed the small protection charm Mira had given me, a proper one this time, not a curse in disguise, hanging by our door. You're keeping it? He asked, surprised. Why not? I shrugged. Sometimes the best way to break a curse is to choose to believe in blessings instead. He pulled me close, kissing my forehead. When did you get so wise? Oh, I grinned. Just something I learned from your mother. Your dog finally got what it deserved, Janet said over the phone, her voice full of satisfaction. Now my cats can visit without that monster bothering them. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, speeding to the emergency vet. My heart pounded as I thought of Max, my 3-year-old German shepherd. He had collapsed after breakfast, the same meal my mother-in-law, Janet, had prepared that morning. What'd you do to Max? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Oh, just a little something to calm him down, she said casually. They'll be fine. Maybe next time you'll train your dog properly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Janet had always disliked Max, but this was beyond anything I imagined. Max wasn't just a pet. He had been my comfort after my husband, Mike, and I lost our baby. But Janet never understood. She hated Max, saying he was a poor substitute for the grandchild she would never have. As I reached the clinic, his staff rushed out with a gurney. Mrs. Mitchell, Dr. Santos greeted me. We need to run tests right away. Do you know what happened? I swallowed hard, explaining how Max had collapsed and how Janet had just called, bragging about putting something in his food. Dr. Santos's face darkened. We need to document everything. This is a crime. My phone buzzed with messages from Janet. Dogs are replaceable. Maybe now you can focus on giving me real grandchildren. Mike never wanted that mutt anyway. I forwarded the messages to the vet, then called Mike. My hands were shaking. Anna? What's wrong? He asked. Your mother poisoned Max, I said. She just admitted it. Silence. Then finally, that's impossible. Check your messages. I recorded her call. He exhaled sharply. I'm on my way. Dr. Santos returned with x-rays. We found small capsules in Max's stomach. We're sending them to the lab. This was done on purpose. Will he survive? I asked, my voice breaking. We caught it early, thanks to you. But Anna, she leaned in. This isn't just about Max. People who do this often escalate. You need to be careful. Mike arrived, his face pale as he looked at the evidence. I never thought. I knew Mom didn't like Max, but this. She didn't just dislike him, Mike, I said, pulling away from his touch. She tried to kill him. She enjoys hurting people. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Janet. A dog isn't a child, Anna. Time to grow up. I showed it to Mike. His expression hardened. The police will want to talk to her, I said. He nodded. Good. It's time someone stopped her. Janet thought she could get away with it, but she had no idea this was just the beginning. The next few days passed in a blur of police reports, veterinary updates, and increasingly unhinged messages from Janet. Mike had moved us into a hotel temporarily, worried his mother might try something else while Max recovered at the animal hospital. The lab results are back, Dr. Santos said during our morning update call. We found a combination of prescription medications in those capsules. Some were pet medications, but others. She paused significantly. Others were human prescription drugs. Very specific ones. I sat up straighter. What does that mean? It means your mother-in-law didn't just use random poison. These were carefully selected medications, some of which require special authorization to obtain. We've shared the findings with the police, and they're particularly interested in how she accessed these drugs. The implications hit me like a truck. Janet worked as a receptionist at a medical clinic, Had she been stealing medications? The thought made me sick. Mike was meeting with a detective when I arrived at the animal hospital to visit Max. My normally energetic shepherd was still weak, but his tail wagged when he saw me. Dr. Santos had said he was lucky. If I hadn't noticed his symptoms so quickly, the outcome could have been devastating. Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Parker greeted me, his notebook open. We've made some interesting discoveries. Your mother-in-law's employer has been very cooperative. Mike looked up, his face grim. They've been missing medications for months, Anna. Small amounts, nothing obvious. But when they checked the logs against the lab results, Janet had access to everything found in Max's system. Detective Parker confirmed. We've obtained security footage showing her accessing the medication storage area outside of normal business hours. I stroked Max's head, feeling him lean into my touch. So this wasn't just about hurting Max. No, the detective replied. This appears to be part of a larger pattern. We found evidence of other potential incidents. Your mother-in-law may have been experimenting with these medications for some time. Mike buried his face in his hands. I can't believe this. All those times she offered to help with Max's anxiety, saying she had special supplements. You didn't know, I said softly, though part of me wanted to scream. I told you so. I'd always refused Janet's offers to treat Max, trusting my instincts when she seemed too eager to medicate him. Detective Parker cleared his throat. We'll need to investigate other possible victims. Were there any other pets in the family who experienced unexpected health issues? Mike's head snapped up. My sister's cat died 6 months ago. Mom said she found it having seizures and tried to help, but his voice trailed off as the implications sank in. We'll need to speak with your sister, the detective said, making notes, and anyone else who might have had pets become ill after contact with your mother. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message from Janet. I hear Max survived. Pity. But there are always accidents waiting to happen. Better watch him carefully. I wordlessly showed the message to Detective Parker, who immediately began typing on his phone. That's a direct threat. We're bringing her in for questioning now. As if on cue, we heard a commotion in the clinic's reception area. Janet's voice carried clearly. I'm here to check on my granddog. How dare you try to keep me away? Mike moved to block the door while Detective Parker stepped out. I held Max close, feeling him tremble as Janet's voice grew louder. This is ridiculous. I was trying to help. That dog is a menace. He needed to be dealt with. Anna's turned him against me, just like she turned Mike against me. The detective's voice was calm but firm. Mrs. Harrison, you're under arrest for animal cruelty, theft of prescription medications, and making criminal threats. You have the right to remain silent. This is absurd, Mike. Tell them. Tell them how that dog ruined everything. Tell them how Anna chose a dog over giving me grandchildren. Mike stepped into the hallway, his voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. The only thing ruining this family is you, Mom. And it stops now. I heard Janet's outraged scream, followed by the sound of handcuffs clicking into place. Detective Parker's partner led her away, still shouting accusations and threats. Dr. Santos entered a few minutes later, looking shaken but determined. Well, that was dramatic. But I have good news. Max's latest tests show significant improvement. We should be able to send him home in a few days, with some precautions, of course. Mike returned to the room, his face a mix of relief and grief. Anna, I don't know what to say. All these years, I didn't want to see what was right in front of me. Mom wasn't just difficult or overprotective. She was dangerous. I reached for his hand, and this time I didn't pull away when he took it. We're going to need to make some changes, I said quietly. Real changes, not just temporary ones. He nodded, reaching out to pat Max with his free hand. I know, and I'm ready. No more excuses, no more trying to keep the peace. Mom needs help, professional help, and we need to protect our family. I looked at our dog, still weak but fighting to recover, and thought about how close we'd come to losing him. Janet's action hadn't just threatened Max. They'd revealed a darkness that had been poisoning our family for years. But as I watched Mike gently comfort our dog, I realized something had shifted. Sometimes it takes a crisis to open our eyes to the truth. Janet's attempt to destroy what she saw as a threat had instead destroyed her own power over our family. The detective's words lingered in my mind. This wasn't over yet. They were investigating other potential victims, and Janet's threats suggested she wasn't done. But for the first time in years, I felt like we were finally facing the problem together instead of letting it tear us apart. The months following Janet's arrest brought changes I never expected. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern. 3 other pets in the neighborhood had died under suspicious circumstances, all after Janet had helped watch them. Mike's sister Amy was devastated to learn her cat's death wasn't an accident, but her testimony proved crucial in building the case against their mother. The DA is offering a plea deal. Detective Parker informed us during a follow-up meeting. Given the evidence and the multiple victims, Janet's looking at serious charges. The clinic is also pressing charges for theft of controlled substances. Max had made a full recovery, though he remained wary of strangers near his food. We'd installed security cameras around the house and implemented strict protocols about who could access our home. The experience had left its mark on all of us. She's still claiming it was all for the family's good, Mike said, shaking his head as we left the detective's office. Says she was trying to fix our family by removing the distractions. I watched as he knelt to greet Max, who was waiting in our car. The bond between them had grown stronger through this ordeal. Mike had finally seen his mother's true nature, and with that recognition came a determination to protect what really mattered. The court date arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Janet sat at the defendant's table, looking smaller somehow without her usual air of superiority. When she turned to look at us, I expected to see anger or blame in her eyes. Instead, I saw something that chilled me more: calculation. Before the court accepts this plea, the judge began. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? Janet stood, her hands clasped demurely in front of her. I only wanted what was best for my family, she said, her voice trembling perfectly. My son and daughter-in-law were so focused on that dog, treating it like a child. I thought if the dog wasn't around. You thought poisoning multiple animals would somehow fix your family? The judge interrupted, his tone sharp. The court has evidence of at least 4 victims, Mrs. Harrison. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a calculated pattern of cruelty. The sentence came down harder than we expected. 3 years in prison, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, and a lifetime ban on working in medical facilities or owning pets. Janet's practiced composure finally cracked. This is your fault, she screamed as they led her away. If you'd just given me grandchildren instead of wasting time with that stupid dog. Mike stood up, his voice carrying clearly across the courtroom. No, Mom, this is your fault. And until you understand that, we can't have you in our lives. Outside the courthouse, Amy approached us with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you about Mom sooner, she told me, hugging me tight. Thank you for stopping her before she could hurt anyone else. Life gradually settled into a new normal. We moved to a house with a large fenced yard where Max could play safely. Mike started therapy to process his complicated feelings about his mother. Slowly, we began to heal. One evening, as we watched Max chasing fireflies in the backyard, Mike turned to me with a serious expression. You know what I realized? He said softly. Mom was wrong about everything. Max didn't prevent us from having a family. He helped us create one. He showed us what unconditional love really looks like. I leaned against him, thinking about how far we'd come. He also showed us how to recognize when someone doesn't have our best interests at heart, I added. Janet still writes sometimes, always with the same manipulative undertones. Her latest letter claimed she's found God in prison and wants to reconcile. We file each letter with our lawyer, maintaining the paper trail while keeping our distance. Max continues to thrive, his protective instincts now channeled into gentle care of our newest family member, a baby girl who arrived last spring. He keeps a watchful eye on her, just as he did for us when we needed him most. The security cameras remain, and we're still careful about who we trust with our family's care. Some might call it paranoid, but we learned the hard way that sometimes the biggest threats come from those who claim to love us most. Yesterday, I found Mike in the nursery, watching as Max lay protectively by the baby's crib. You know, he said quietly, I used to think Mom was right about what a family should look like. But now I understand. Family isn't about meeting someone else's expectations. It's about protecting the ones you love, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4. Looking at them, my husband, our dog who survived poisoning to become a guardian, and our daughter sleeping peacefully, I knew he was right. Janet had tried to destroy what she couldn't control. But instead, she'd only made us stronger. Our family wasn't what she wanted, but it was exactly what we needed. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our best decisions. Janet's attempt to fix our family had failed. But in its place, we'd built something genuine, something strong. And this time, we knew how to protect it.